In this week's podcast, really excited to have Kate Daly join us as a guest. Kate has had a phenomenal career working for many of the world's largest brands and some of New Zealand's household names, and now she is the Director of People at BNZ. Through that career, she's had a lot of insights into how you create high-performing cultures, how you help organisations learn, and there's a number of things we touch on in this episode that I think are really insightful. Firstly, we talk about what is culture, what does it mean to Kate, and how does she think about it in the organisations that she leads. We talk about the challenges facing the banking industry. Kate also gives us insights into some of the initiatives they're using at the bank for retention, keeping people engaged in the environment, thinking about how they have some more flexibility around their leave policies and the way they're engaging with people. She talks about her contribution to the LBTQI plus community, how she's been involved with that in a number of her roles. She's also a board member at the Auckland Blues rugby franchise. So she gives us some insights into the crossovers between high performance sport and high performance organisations. You're going to really enjoy this episode. My discussion with Kate is insightful and thought-provoking. Please enjoy. Hey Kate, thanks for joining us on the podcast today. Lovely to have you.
Yeah, good to be here.
We're going to kick off with some rapid fire.
Good.
Are you a breakfast or a dinner girl?
Dinner. Definitely dinner.
Yeah, why is that?
Oh, I don't know. I just like going out and like enjoy the experience more. Breakfast is always a rush with 3 kids and trying to get out the door. There's nothing really enjoyable about breakfast at our house.
And when you've got one of your children that plays water polo, breakfast is like 4:30 in the morning or something?
So that's right. So this morning actually we were up at 5:45. And so, breakfast on the go for her. She heads it after she's trained. And then I come home, get ready, get the other kids and go off to school.
Plenty on the go.
Lots on the go.
Okay. On holiday, are we likely to find you bungee jumping or in the pool lounger?
Pool lounger, definitely.
Nice.
Although I have bungee jumped before, but probably my days for that are done now.
Feel like you tick that box, ready to move on. And would we most likely find you in trainers or heels?
Trainers.
Nice.
Definitely trainers.
Like it. When you're reading, are you a real book person or a Kindle electronic?
Real book, 100%.
Yeah.
I've had friends try and convert me to the Kindle, but no, I enjoy the experience of reading a book and turning the pages, and I'm definitely a real book person.
Yeah, but it's like when it's so much heavier when you fall asleep and it hits you in the forehead.
I know, but I enjoy books.
Okay. Cats or dogs?
Well, we've got both. We've got a German Shepherd and 2 cats, so bit of both. I love animals.
Is it like children? Can you call out your favourite?
Favourite? Well, probably not. I love them all differently, but probably one of the cats a bit more than the others.
Are we still talking about the pets or the kids
the
now?
Pets.
The
pets. Probably one of the cats a bit more.
Right. Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Early riser or night owl? We've just talked about
probably early riser, forced early riser, yeah.
Okay. And entertainment, are we likely to see you watching a thriller or a comedy?
Probably a thriller. I really love English crime, the old detective series and stuff like that. So that would be the number one choice.
Nice. Kate, you've had a stellar corporate career, worked in many of certainly New Zealand's largest organisations and some very big ones overseas as well. Was that always the plan? What were you, when you were 10 or 12 years old, what did you think you were going to be doing?
Well, actually, it was never the plan. Growing up at school, I wanted to be a policewoman. So that was always the plan, and I didn't really apply myself that much at school, and I never really wanted a career. I just sort of fell into it actually, and I've really loved it and really enjoyed it, but it was definitely not the plan.
So the police thing, did you pursue it at all, or you just got to a zone where you actually I've decided that's not?
No, I didn't, and as I was leaving school actually, my parents sort of influenced me quite heavily not to do it, which probably wasn't a great thing. And I think if they'd been more supportive, I probably would have done it, and it would have been very different. I went off and actually I started life off nursing and did that for a few years, and then decided I wanted to go back to university, and went back to university and studied, and that's how I sort of ended up in corporates, really.
Right. And were you on the HR people track when you went back to university?
No, I did a commerce degree and a science degree. I did economics and pharmacology.
Right.
And I know, very narrow. And I wanted to go and work actually for Pharmac in Wellington and do pharmacoeconomic drug analysis policy. Wow. And having done the most narrow degree for 4 years you possibly could do, my husband said he didn't want to move to Wellington, which was the only place we could live if I was going to work in that field. So that was an interesting few weeks in the Daly household.
Yes.
But anyway, and while I'd been studying, I'd been working part-time, and I got a job as a nurse actually at Sky City, and ended up getting into HR that way, and then, you know, never got out of it really.
Now, head of people at BNZ, you know, we use this word culture a lot. What does culture mean to you?
I think for me, culture is the essence of the organisation. It's how people describe working there. It's the word that they use, or the words they use when someone says at a barbecue, so what's it like working there? And it's how, I think it's really how people feel when they're there. And I think, you know, now organisations really are turning their focus very much to culture and the culture that they want to create to enable the organisation to be successful. You know, I think over the last 20 years people have used culture as a bit of a buzzword, but I think now people are really truly understanding the value of it and the importance of it, and really starting to think about how you actually can use culture as a really strong sort of point of differentiation from your competitors.
In every way, the way you attract people, the way you retain people, how you deliver customer experience, because you've got a good culture, those kind of things. So as someone, how many people do you have in the BNZ organisation?
Around about 5,000.
Yeah, it's quite a big team. How do you think about the different levers you can pull around influencing a culture?
So the first thing we've done is really shape our values, because I think it's really important that to create a culture you need to know what's important to your organisation. So we went out and we actually asked our people to design our values and said, you tell us what's important to you, and they did a card sort exercise and came up with the you know, very, very similar 4 topics, you know, around excellence and customer and people. So it was in collaboration. So from there we did some work and went and did some focus groups and came up with the values. So that was the first part for us, is because I think those have to define what you do and what's important to you. And we're just starting to think now about not only bringing the values to life and embedding them, but also how we set ourselves up to deliver our transformation program, which is very focused around digitalization and customer experience, and giving our customers the opportunity to self-service or have a face-to-face contact depending on what they want to do. So there's a huge amount of change going on, and thinking about how we support our people to navigate that change is really important.
And how do you see the New Zealand banking landscape compared to things you're observing globally?
Well, we know that there are parts of the world that are incredibly advanced. So if you go and look at the Nordics, for example, they're virtually cashless. So people don't have cash at all. Everything's transacted in a mobile wallet off their phone and cards. So you can go and do your home loan online, you can do all your term deposit, you can do anything you want really online. So they are very advanced. I think in the Asian region, you know, China, it's all digital wallets on your phone. You look at WePay, they're massive. So they are leading the way in terms of, you know, automation and transaction banking. So I think we are quite a way behind where some of those sort of regions are.
So when you look at the Nordic, it's been led by the banks themselves in the Nordic region. Yeah. But WePay, that's an independent, so they're not
Amazon Pay, WePay, you know, massive. So they've sort of been led really to it by these, you know, enormously successful organisations who understand customers so well. So they really understand how to make things easy and simple for customers. So that sort of led them into some of the banking areas, and they obviously, you know, the banking supports them with their core business too, which is, you know, retail. So I think there's some really interesting trends for us to be looking at.
And has that marginalised the banks in those areas, like in
some
China?
Of them, absolutely.
They're kind of missing out, right? It's
in the Nordics, some of the more traditional banks have really struggled. You know, and I think once you're behind and once you then have that steep investment curve in digitisation, if you're not leading it, it's very hard to come back and recover. So for us, and I know all the other banks here are also thinking about it, how you manage that investment and how we provide more services to our people that they can actually do when they want in their own time, rather than being constrained to the hours of a branch, say.
So Kate, when you're thinking about this transformation that's happening in your sector, there's obviously a lot of technology involved. You've got to bring people up to speed and up to scale so you can compete on that landscape. How else do you prepare your people, or what are you thinking about in terms of preparing your people for that kind of transformation, and not only technically preparing them but also bring them on board from a culture sense?
Well, I think there are two things we're starting to think about, very much in their infancy, but one is the skills that our people will need for the future. So we've done quite a big analysis and a workforce strategy, looking at what skills we have today and then thinking about the areas we're investing in technology, and then looking and then saying, well, what skills will we need tomorrow? So one of the pieces of work we need to do is really think about what that means for our people and what investments we need to make in them and their skill and capability so that they've got the skills to be successful in the future. So that's one area that we're thinking about quite heavily. And the other is, to create a digitised workforce and one that's a lot more innovative and fast and nimble. We need to make quite a bit of changes to the way we work and the way that we set ourselves up structurally, and how we really support our people to think more innovatively and then actually move to action quite quickly. Sometimes I think we make life a little bit hard for ourselves internally, so really thinking through how do you make that culture shift, how do you empower your people to actually lead that for you. You need your whole workforce going in the same direction to make a meaningful change.
With the breakthrough, we have a program called Active Manager, and we've observed that there's a lot of people in management roles that have often been promoted into those roles because they've been great at technically at a job, and they're actually lacking the soft skill development. How do you think about the soft skill development at BNZ?
Well, I think, managing people's heart, there's no two ways about that. And, I do think I've seen it where, you have people who are technically fantastic or, amazing at selling or whatever they do. And then you promote them and what they're good at becomes less important because actually now they're managing people and, really leading teams is an ongoing development for you because you'll have a team of very different people who will want something different from you. I think the things we are investing in our leaders is around humility and accepting feedback and proactively seeking it and, engaging with their people to learn, listen to learn. Coaching and really how you have a more powerful, more frequent conversation with your people. And then the other piece that is really around navigating change, setting strategic direction, and then helping your people navigate the change to ensure that they deliver that.
Who's the best manager that you ever worked for?
I've worked for some pretty good managers actually, and in fact all of them have been pretty good, and I've learnt something different from all of them. I have to say, it's hard to choose one because I think they're all really, really good. But
sounds like a very politically correct answer.
No,
Kate.
I have. You learn something. Yeah. I think from everyone.
What's
you
a standout
work
learning? You don't have to name the person because we're not playing favourites today. So
no.
What's a standout learning you've had from someone?
Probably empathy and structure and drive. How you balance those three. When you fall into a leadership position, you naturally want to lead. Most leaders have quite strong personalities and are quite lead from the front type people, and what that means is you often don't take people with you on the journey, or in my case, you make decisions quite quickly and you move to that without actually stopping and reflecting and thinking about what that means for your team. So I think the best leader I've ever worked for actually balances those three. They've had empathy, but real drive to get things done, but they do it in a really positive way that's a great experience for you.
And do you feel like that was something that person just naturally had, or was it something they evolved and worked on and consciously developed that kind of skill set?
Well, I suspect, I haven't asked the question, but I suspect it was an evolution because I think we all evolve as leaders, and I think, age has something to do with it as well. I think as you get a little bit older, you get a little less, it's less about you and it's more about the people you manage and lead, and getting enjoyment out of seeing them grow and seeing them deliver. So I think it's an aging thing as well as an experience thing, but gives you development, which is the main thing.
Yeah, starts with a lot of self-awareness, right? If you're very self-aware, then you can grow and develop out there.
Yeah.
How about, is there a standout example for you of something that we're going, I never want to lead like that?
Oh, I think so. I mean, I've worked for, probably in London, I worked in investment banking for sort of 4 or 5 years, so I definitely saw a lot of examples there of how I never want to lead. I've seen some managers be really brutal. In fact, I would say they bullied people who worked for them, and that was pretty uncomfortable. And I found that personally quite challenging. So I think people who just are overtly far too driven, far too unaware of the impact they have on other people, and probably quite selfish in terms of getting the team to deliver something that they want at the expense of what's good for other people.
Coming back to the values piece and how we now live that day to day, because a lot of what you talk about is values, right?
Yeah.
Treating people with empathy, doing the right thing, balancing the drive and the organisation's goals that you're trying to deliver. How do you help an organisation live its values day to day? Because I think we've all observed organisations where they spend a huge amount of time and effort and resource coming up with these values, and they collaborate and they get people involved as you've done, and then so often we've seen them fall by the wayside, and 6 months down the track we're going, oh, what are the company values again? You're like, I'll need to go back and look. How do you get an organisation to live its values every day?
I think you have to embed it into everything you do. So this year, we've embedded the values into, our recognition programs. We're embedding them into our performance framework. We're embedding them into our employee value proposition, which we've just launched to our people. We're embedding them into everything we do, and we have values postcards around the workplace. So our employees can actually write a little postcard to someone who they see as living the values.
Oh, great.
And say, thanks, well done, this is what I saw, and thank you. So I think we're trying to bring it to life.
And what kind of uptake has there been of that initiative?
Yeah, pretty good. You see lots of people around the place with a postcard, on their desk. So I think it's been really well received.
I like that.
And then, we just talk about our values all the time.
And I think you've got a great culture when it's that self-regulating piece, right? When people are calling out great behaviour around values, but also calling out behaviour that doesn't align.
That's right.
Yeah. Have you
that's
observed?
when I think the rubber hits the road. Really, is when people actually start saying, well, one of our values, for example, is do the right thing. What happens when people don't do the right thing? Will other people stand up and be accountable and say, actually, that's wrong, and will they call that behaviour? And I mean, we're starting to see that people are, but that's just a journey that you go through as an organisation, and you don't want it to be a punitive thing. You want these to be a really motivating, aspirational set of values for people, and something that inspires them.
And as a leadership team, how do you guys talk about living the values?
Well, we talk about them quite frequently. We talk about what we're doing, how it aligns to the values. We definitely talk about the values and alignment to values. We always, when we're launching new projects, think about how we can wrap them up under the values and what value it aligns to, and then how you reinforce that in the organisation.
And if you could have one business superpower that you could you could change anything in an organisation, because you could, what superpower do you think you'd choose?
I would, want to make the experience of working at the BNZ the best one ever for everyone who comes there. So, they have the best leaders, they have access to the best learning, they feel like they get developed and their career aspirations are fulfilled, and they have a great work-life balance. So that would be, for me, the magic wand I could wave.
Recently, you've announced an increase in annual leave for the team at BNZ. Can you give us some insight into the kind of thinking behind that and how that aligns with maybe that, it's a small amount of superpower? Yeah,
well, I think the wellbeing is really important to us, and we wanted a really compelling employment value proposition, and we really wanted our people to actually use the leave that they had. And we had lots of different types of leave, but people didn't necessarily use them, and they were for quite narrow purposes, which meant even if people wanted to use them, they couldn't. So, when we were thinking about this a year ago, we thought, well, wouldn't it be amazing just to say to people, here's 6 weeks, and you can use it for whatever you want, and give permissibility to our people to actually take 6 weeks leave a year. As we all know that some of the other leave types we had, people actually didn't really feel like they could use, and when we looked at the data, they weren't using them. So, our hope is that our people will use it. We know our people do like to use their leave. So it was really a very strong signal that wellbeing is really important to us at the BNZ, wellbeing and flexibility and choice.
Sure. How do you balance this well-being of staff, retention, those kind of things with commercial impact?
Well, I actually have a view that I think with more leave, our people will feel more refreshed and feel more productive, and when they're at work, because they're getting good breaks, that they're going to be actually hopefully less sick. And I think devices have really changed the work life for many people. I mean, I remember when I first started working, and you'd turn up, you'd turn your computer on, and then when you'd finished, you'd turn it off and you went home. And people don't have the luxury of turning devices off. And I think we might say to ourselves, we're going to do that, but we don't. So I think, work has really crept into, for a lot of people, their personal space a lot more. I think giving people time away from work is really important, and giving them that extra leave.
What are you most proud of in your corporate career?
I've been a really big supporter of diversity, and so I think some of the work that I've led or seen happen around gender diversity, I've worked very hard for an organisation called Superpower, was on the board of that to set that up, which is really focused around providing internships in corporate careers for young Māori and Pacifica undergraduates. So I feel that's been something that's been very important to me. And I've done a lot of work with the LBTQI community around their inclusion and making it a workplace where they feel comfortable and heard. So I think I've done a lot of work in diversity, and I really enjoy that. Also had some amazing people work for me who I've seen develop and go on, and some of them are sitting in really big jobs in New Zealand at the moment, and I think that's amazing. I feel very proud that I've had a part to play in their development. That's awesome. Then, I think also some of the work we're doing at the BNZ around the leave, and which is, sort of quite advanced in terms of thinking in New Zealand. Some of the work we're going to be doing around career pathways and investing in capability, I think that's going to be pretty amazing. But I think, probably the one thing, that's the most challenging but most rewarding is probably managing a career and a family. I have 3 kids, as you know, and trying to talk to them about their careers and flexibility and choice of career now between males and females, and role modelling the importance of choice is something that I sort of feel pretty proud about.
Absolutely, and you should do. Doing a great job, because managing a family is a huge job in itself. Adding in leading another big family. Another family's got 5,000 people in it alongside. Huge challenge to bring those two together and do it successfully. So
it is, but it's good, and many people do it. But it has its moments for sure.
Okay, so if you could step out of the Kate Daly world and just be someone else for a day, who would you be?
Look, I think actually, if I could do something else, it would probably be where you're making a real difference for the community. So I think I'd love to be someone who worked in a role where you're at the United Nations or something like that, where you're actually making meaningful change to people who are less fortunate or live in war-ravaged countries or something like that. So I think you'd have a huge degree of job satisfaction going home at night knowing you'd improved the lives of people who need it.
Okay, so I was going to ask you, if you had $1 million, you had to spend it absolutely tomorrow. Let's say, based on your previous answer, you could have half of that could go to humanitarian cause. What would you personally spend a wad of cash on?
I think I'd probably take the family and extended family on a nice holiday somewhere, go and have because family is really important to me, and friends, so probably go and do something that's going to create a really magical memory.
Is there a country or a location on the hit list?
Asia probably. We haven't done a lot of travel. We travelled a lot when I lived in London, around Europe, Middle East, and Africa, so probably either South America or Asia. They're pretty high on the hit list, so probably head there and do a bit of a trip. So I think that would definitely be something I'd do. And then I think probably invest a bit for the kids. I think I look at house prices and things like that today, and if I could put some money away for them to help them get a deposit down, that's probably what I'd do.
Yeah, very helpful. I'm sure they'd be deeply appreciative if you do that, Kate.
Yeah.
That'd be great. Kate, you're also on the board of both Auckland Rugby and the Blues. So give us the inside word. Is this the season for the Blues?
I hope so.
Are we back to our former glory? What's going on?
I hope so. Look, I think this season's going to be a good one. We've made some pretty good signings. I think the players, we've got a really good core base as well of players who've been with us for a few years, and their development is really accelerated. I think we've got a really great coaching team, so I think we've got the ingredients there for it, and I feel really positive that this year will be better than last year. And last year we were so close. There were 4 or 5 games that really came down to a handful of points either way, and had they gone the other way, which some of them could have, it would have been a very different season for us. So I think when it's that close, it's coming, and I think this will be a good one.
Yeah. It's a brutal environment to operate in.
It is.
Sporting, your results are out on the park every single week.
Yeah.
And you get judged very harshly by the fans, and they have a right to do so. They're paying for the product, but it's a tough environment to operate in.
Oh, for sure. And I think when you're inside it and you see how hard it is, and how much it means to the players as well. I think they really want to be successful. We've got a great group of players. They're very, very committed to the franchise. They're very committed to doing well for the fans, and they really want to be successful, and when they're not, it really hurts. So we've got the players, we've got amazing coaching staff, and they're equally as committed to the region and wanting to see this franchise really deliver on its potential. So it's a real privilege to be part of it, and hopefully we'll see it come. I know it will come, it's just when.
Sure.
Because all the ingredients are there. So.
Right. And have you had any learnings from the high-performance sport environment that you've been able to translate into the corporate world, or vice versa?
I think it's just so brutal, as you said. And I think in the corporate world, we'll accept underperformance, and it's uncomfortable to have a hard conversation with people. So we all sometimes shy away from the conversations we need to have. Whereas in the high-performance sport environment, it's just brutal. Week in, week out, 1 or 2 bad games and you can be dropped, and then someone else gets a chance and they play well, and things turn very quickly for players, both positively and negatively. They have a lot of pressure on them as well from the public, their supporters, and they put a lot of pressure on themselves. So I think watching that high performance environment really is been really interesting for me as a learning.
Yeah, and good reality. I think when you're dealing with some things in corporate or business world which seem very challenging at the time, and some of them truly are. But a bit of perspective is helpful.
That's right. And they work. The players train very, very hard, and physically they have to be really fit, and mentally they have to be really tough. So I think that's been really interesting for me, learning more about their high performance, their strength and conditioning, and the work they do to turn up. It was a lot more than I'd probably thought happened, to be fair, and nutrition and all that stuff. So it's a big commitment, and really hard. If they get an injury, it can be all over.
Totally. Yep. You're one injury away from your career being gone. Right. Tough place to work. Alrighty. Not a lot matters, Kate, but what matters a lot.
Yeah.
What matters to you?
Oh, family, definitely. We do it all for the kids and for family. That's very, very important. Friends. I've got a great group of friends. I'm really blessed that I've got amazing friends in my life. And I think just, keeping life in perspective and being happy, and, not worrying too much about the stuff that doesn't happen and focus more on the stuff that does. And just not stressing too much is really important to me. I think life can be very, very busy, and we try and jam so much in. And then I think the last thing really is making sure that in my work that I can be the best I can, and the best I can for my team and for our people at the BNZ.
So how do you prepare to be your best for your team?
Oh, I think, feedback, and I've just been through a round of 360-degree feedback, and I got some amazing feedback on things I do well and things that I need to do better. So I think always being open to that, and and listening, you know, being involved but not too over involved, and making sure that, you know, you say thank you. Our team, I'm really proud of the work that the team's doing at the moment. I've got some incredible people working really hard on making all these changes come to life for our people. So, you know, I think just being present and supporting them and saying thank you and well done is really important.
And outside of work, how do you prepare mentally, physically, you know, health? How do you do that bit to make sure you turn up
not well
at work?
enough, unfortunately. And that's one of my, you know, really big areas of focus, I think, for the next 12 months is going to be trying to get a bit more time in the diary, because, you know, some days I start at 5:30 and I don't finish till 10. So finding time to exercise in that period's quite hard. So I need to do a better job of managing my diary so that I'm doing a bit more exercise and looking after myself a bit better. I tend to put everyone else first, and I come last, so I need to change that.
You do?
Yeah.
Because there's no finding time, you make it, right?
I know, that's right. Yeah, got to make it.
But let's not turn this into a coaching session.
Yeah,
tempting as it is.
Yeah,
hey, look, Kate, thank you so much for joining us today. I'd like to acknowledge you for the work you've done. I think you've affected the lives of so many different people, and often as senior leaders, you can cop flack for things that aren't going well. People forget to think about all the things that have been put in place, and with the organisations and the leadership roles you've had, you've really affected a lot of lives in a very positive way. Your work around diversity, I think, is immense, and that's something that more senior leaders need to continue to work around. So thank you for your efforts, and thanks for joining us.
Welcome.